9:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, good morning. It is Chris Hand, Mac Morey producing, Ken Weaver in the newsroom, and it's an agenda-free Friday. Agenda-free, meaning whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about today. 615-737-9986. I do find that with how fast the news cycle's been moving lately, sometimes we just miss stories, or we don't get to them, or there's something that you haven't heard us talk about, and this is why we have Agenda-Free Friday. Is there something that you want to talk about? 615-737-9986. I would like to talk about the House passing this $14 billion in aid to Israel. They're saying it's not going to get through the Senate and that there's already plans that Biden would veto it. But I feel like as conservatives, so often we are compromising and bending the knee, and I feel like there's certain topics that I'm sick of compromising on, and it really goes to free speech, the Second Amendment, abortion. I'm so sick of being a conservative and compromising. That being said, one of the things I don't like doing, is funding foreign wars. I hate it, absolutely hate it. I don't like money going to Ukraine. I don't really want to be funding this war in Israel. It feels like we're going to be funding both sides, whether we like it or not, as aid just goes into Gaza. And they're saying, 30% of the aid will actually reach the people, 70% will go to Hamas. So we're going to be funding both sides. That being said, with the compromise and not wanting to compromise on certain things, when new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, brings this bill, and it's $14 billion in aid for Israel, and they're going to get that aid by cutting IRS funding, well, that's a compromise that I can get behind. Because I'll be honest with you, even though I don't like spending money on foreign wars and I don't want to fund other things in the world when our borders wide open, our veterans are homeless, fentanyl's pouring in, our schools can't teach kids how to read. I mean, we can go down the list about all the problems that we have in this country. At least they have a plan where they're not just printing money out of thin air to send it overseas. At least the plan is to take money that's already basically been earmarked to spend, and they're going to use that instead. So when there's things I don't want to compromise on, like the First Amendment, like the Second Amendment, like abortion, like I'm just sick of compromising on that stuff. When this bill comes forward and they say, listen, it's $14 billion for Israel, but we're going to be cutting IRS funding, I said, okay, well, that's a compromise I can get behind. Because in all reality, whether I want to spend money on foreign wars or not, there's not a lot that we can do about it. This money is going to get spent over there. It just is. $14 billion. So when a compromise comes up where the aid is going to be coming from the IRS, I'm like, all right, cool. I can compromise with that. The House passed that bill yesterday to help get rid of Hamas, and they crossed Democrat Party lines to support the Republican push. Democrats were on board. There were two Republicans that voted against it, one being Marjorie Taylor Greene, the other being Thomas Massie. Now, Thomas Massie, to me, I think is very principled. He always kind of stands up for what he believes in, and he doesn't really care about the flack he's going to take. And to me, I respect the hell out of that. Because even if I disagree with Massie, I feel like he's doing what he thinks is the right thing to do. He posted on Twitter last night why he voted against the foreign aid for Israel, and his reasoning is solid. He says, soaring inflation and high interest rates are due to overspending. We can't afford more foreign aid. I voted against the billions for Ukraine, and I'm voting against $14 billion for foreign aid for Israel tonight. Now, listen, I love that Thomas Massie's principled, and I love that he stands up for what he believes in. But in this scenario, I do disagree with him. When we're going to have to compromise one way or another, compromising by spending money that was designated for the IRS, to me, seems like the kind of compromise that we can all get behind as conservatives. But what do I know? Again, I feel like this money was going to be spent whether we liked it or not. I personally wish that we would stop sending our tax dollars anywhere while we have an open border, while kids in our school systems can't read. But, I'm not in charge of the budget. Mike Johnson is in charge of the budget. Mike Johnson says that the country's in dire straits.
Listen, we are in dire straits as a nation. And if you talk to leaders at the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Pentagon, sometimes even in recent years under oath, they've testified before the House Armed Services Committee, where I served until last week. If you ask them what the greatest threat is to our national security, you would expect, most people expect they'd say China, Russia, Iran, terrorism. They say it's the national debt.
And of course it's the national debt. I've said this so many times. How are we going to take care of our country if we don't put our oxygen mask on first? You can't help somebody on a plane when the plane's going down. You can't get somebody else's oxygen mask on until you have yours on. That's a rule. And currently in our country, we are bleeding money. 33 trillion plus in debt. Your kids, my kids, our grandkids are going to be paying for this. We have essentially turned the next couple of generations into debt slaves with the amount of spending going on. So to say that that's our greatest threat to national security, I think is spot on. How can we keep ourselves safe if we can't pay the bills and keep the lights on?
We have to address it. We have obligations and we have commitments, and we want to protect our and help and assist our friend Israel, but we have to keep our own house in order as well. And I think people at home, I think the American people understand that. At home, you have to balance your budget. At home, you have to make tough decisions. And Washington should run the same way. And so we are here to change the environment, to change the paradigm, the way Washington thinks. If we continue on the trajectory we're on, it's going to hurt our country terribly, and it's going to hurt hardworking Americans even more, seniors and the rest. So we have to, while we take care of obligations, we've got to do it in a responsible manner. So I made this very clear to the president, myself, in our cordial meeting that we had. I've made it very clear to our colleagues, House Republicans. Senate Republicans. I spoke at their luncheon yesterday. To every cabinet official I've spoken to, all the way down the line, that we're going to do this in a responsible manner, and that's a very important principle for us.
So listen, I'm with it. If you're going to spend that money, no matter what, then find a place where it's coming from instead of just printing it out of thin air. I mean, at the same time, while this is going to be rejected, the United States is expected to deliver $425 million in new military aid for Ukraine for its fight against Russia, including about $300 million in long-term funding to buy laser-guided munitions designed to take out drones. U.S. officials said yesterday. This is from the AP. According to the officials, this long-term money will be provided through the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, which funds contracts for larger weapon systems that need to be built or modified by defense companies. Listen, I mean, you don't hear much about the Ukraine war anymore, and it's because they're losing. And every dollar that we send over there is just a dollar we're basically throwing into a trash can, to be perfectly honest with you. That war is not going to be won by Ukraine. It's just not. But we'll fund it. We'll fund it anyway. Because we can't be looked at as bad guys, you know? We gotta do the right thing. We gotta be the world police. I'm tired of being the world police. I truly, truly am. Because it's not affordable. It's not sustainable. And we have our own problems here at home. But in Ukraine, they're not winning. President Trump made this comment at a rally in Houston last night, and he's so on point with it. When they're not talking about Ukraine anymore in the news, it's because they're losing.
But when you look at what they've done, and nobody talks about Afghanistan. You notice they're not talking much about Ukraine either anymore. That's because things don't go well. They don't want to talk about it. When things don't go well, they don't talk about it. You know, it's what they don't talk about, the fake news media, that's almost as bad and sometimes worse than what they do talk about. So that means that things are going badly because they're not talking about Ukraine anymore. I don't see it, and not just because of the catastrophe in Israel. Ukraine would have never happened with us, ever.
I think his point that they're not talking about Ukraine because they they don't want to talk about because it's not going well is on point. And as we send hundreds of millions of dollars overseas for foreign wars, I can't help but think, what about East Palestine, Ohio? Have we cleaned up that mess yet? What about Hawaii? Is it totally rebuilt in Lahaina? I mean, we have actual problems in this country. Actual citizens hurting. And we're sending hundreds of millions, billions of dollars overseas for foreign wars. I can't get behind it. Tim in Franklin, you have a comment on funding Israel. Tim, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
Yeah, hey, Chris, thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely, man.
You know what? These politicians have to remember, with the world in the state that it's in right now, Israel's got our back. We need to fund them, and the politicians need to cut in their special interest funding. You know, these bills have to show, or someone has to research what they're funding. I mean, some of this stuff is like research on, how fast a lizard can run. All these special little perks that they get, from people that contribute to their coffers for their reelection. That's where we need to make the cuts. We need to protect our butt. We need to protect Israel's butt. These people are not going to stop until they annihilate Israel. And we've got Iraq, who Joe Biden is funding them so that they're going to end up with nukes.
Yeah, I mean,
we need protection in the Middle East, and Israel is right there.
It feels like we're funding both sides of the conflict in the Middle East to me. And then
absolutely.
And I agree. Listen, we should have Israel's back, and I get that, but we fund them to the tune of billions of dollars a year anyway. Like, we already do that. And until we get our spending under control, until we get our border under control, I'm not a fan of sending more money overseas. Now, this new bill that Mike Johnson is trying to get pushed through, which Biden said the plan is Biden would already veto it. I like it because they're cutting from places where we don't want money spent anyway. So if you're going to spend the money on IRS or Israel, well, I'm fine in making the compromise to spend it for Israel. But just printing money out of thin air is not sustainable for this country.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's the special interest stuff is where we could probably save a lot of money.
Yep, totally get it.
All that type of research on silly stuff that they're sending millions of dollars to all these different companies. We could be fine.
Yeah. I mean, my mind always goes to the gender studies in Pakistan that we funded with COVID relief money.
Yeah, there you go. That's one of them right there.
It's ridiculous. It's exactly what they need. Gender studies in Pakistan. People love it. Hey, thanks for the call, Tim. I really appreciate you. It is an agenda-free Friday. Anything that you want to talk about, we can talk about. Phone lines wide open, 615-737-9986. Mike had a good comment on the super text line. Our friend Mike in Alabama, he said, throwing money at Ukraine is not policing. It's money laundering. Policing would be going in and ending the conflict. Oh, that's a good point, Mike. It absolutely feels like money laundering over there in Ukraine, doesn't it? I said I'm sick of being the world police. 8212 says I'm sick of being the world ATM.
That gets a
bingo.
Yeah, off. You're off to a hot start, 8212. Mac doesn't hand out the bingos for nobody, all right? You have to have a good comment for a bingo. Anything else you want to talk about? Is there a news story that you think hasn't gotten the attention it deserves this week? I mean, with how fast the news cycle moves, it wouldn't shock me if there's something that deserves more attention. 615-737-9986. It's an agenda-free Friday on the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at Paul Winkler Inc. Now, when you have 4 kids and a wonderful wife, you have to start planning for the future. And when you're planning for the future, you need to have somebody that can help you do it. Now, before I linked up with Paul and his team, to be honest with you, I didn't exactly have a financial plan. But after having sat down with Paul, breaking bread, and learning a lot from him, we do now. And Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required. And what does that mean? Well, that means that I have to tell you every time this commercial airs, I am paid. And that's fair. But I'm not paid to be a client of Paul's. No, in fact, it's like I'm making money being a client of Paul's because I'm learning so much and I'm confident in my financial future. Listen, Paul's a smart guy. He knows the financial world better than I do, and he can explain it to a guy like me so I can understand it. Now, after becoming a client of Paul's, the education that they give me is amazing. It's an investment education that is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. If you aren't as financially literate as you should be, well, Paul and his team can help you with that. And Paul and his team don't do anything on commission. This is one of the biggest selling points for me. Nothing is done on commission. So when they tell you how to manage your money, they're telling you that for you, not for them. Nothing is done on commission. So do what I did. Talk to one of his team members today. You can set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950.
Brand new jobs report. More than a dozen U.S. senators getting a little queasy about what's going on in Gaza. And the debate over daylight saving time is raging again. These stories and more at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, the debate over daylight savings time. I'm not a fan. I'm not sure if it's as heated of a debate as Aquaman versus Batman was this morning.
Well,
I missed that.
Daylight saving time doesn't affect Aquaman. He just stays under the water.
All right.
Good point.
Nailed it. Yeah, we had a heated debate this morning. Sometimes I feel like Ken just becomes contrarian to
He's going devil's advocate.
Dan was walking out of here. He said nothing gets the super textures going like Batman versus Aquaman. But I did want to point out from earlier that Batman won on the super text line, Ken.
Did he?
He did.
Rats.
That's a tough battle.
Sandra said, I ran home from school in the 70s to watch Batman.
I did too, boy.
Would never do that for Aquaman. That's what she said. Did you ever run home to watch Aquaman, Ken?
Well, they didn't have Aquaman.
Oh, well, so short answer is no.
No, I did not. See, you got me. You backed me into a corner.
Oh, can't swim out of that one. All right. There's a lot happening. Stacey Abrams was on with Jen Psaki.
Oh.
Did you hear about this? Stacey Abrams, election denying Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
It was her turn. She should have been the governor, all that stuff. She said Joe Biden, he's crushing it, in her words. She says he's overperformed expectations.
Are you satisfied with the job he's done as president, what he's delivered on?
I think President Joe Biden has been an exceptional president. On a range of issues, he has overperformed expectation. He has navigated incredibly difficult circumstances. And he has shown that he is willing to stand with the people of Georgia, with the people of this country, to move the nation forward.
Well, I mean, I guess I could agree with her on overperforming expectations.
Sure.
'Cause the expectations were very low.
Yeah.
My expectations were lower than the floor.
And moving the country forward into an abyss.
Yeah, he's definitely overperformed expectations.
Good grief.
I thought he would have taken a lot more vacation. He's only taken about a year of his first term. I thought he would take a lot more. But she goes on to say that people's lives are harder now. But it's not Joe's fault.
We have to remember what we face if we want to continue to hold on the progress we've had. But we can't ignore. We have to remember what we face if we want to continue to hold on the progress we've had. But we can't ignore the fact that people's lives are harder. And this is not because of the president. It is because of global issues and international challenges.
Wouldn't global issues and international challenges fall under the president's responsibilities? Is that weird?
Yeah, that's part of the requirement.
That's part of the job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, foreign policy and stuff. Weird. I don't know. Maybe Stacey's right. Maybe Joe's doing great. 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the news.
$9:30 on the dot this Friday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. The Labor Department saying the U.S. economy added a modest 150,000 jobs last month, showing the labor market is cooling. The unemployment rate rose slightly to 3.9% from 3.8%. The Fed did not raise interest rates in its last two meetings, but Fed Chair Jerome Powell said just yesterday that we should not rule out an additional interest rate hike, possibly as soon as next month. More than a dozen Democratic U.S. senators have signed a statement calling for Israel to pause its bombing of Gaza. The statement signed by 13 of those senators, all Democrats, affirming Israel's right and obligation to go after Hamas, but they say that there needs to be much more done to protect civilian life. And the debate over daylight saving time is raging again, with Americans preparing to fall back 1 hour this weekend. Recent polling shows 62% of Americans want to stop changing clocks but don't agree on a permanent solution. In the past 5 years, 19 states have passed legislation or resolutions supporting year-round daylight saving time, but The American Medical Association says standard time is healthier and more natural because by getting darker earlier at night, it sets people up for better sleep cycles. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
9:37 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's an agenda-free Friday. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. 615-737-9986. I got a good text from 0324 here in the borough. And it was asking about my personal sobriety. She said, Chris, or he said, Chris, with all these frustrations for agenda-free Friday, I know many are drinking more. Would you be willing to share sobriety tips? I think you can reach many that can provide blessings, if anything, to let those who struggle know they are not alone. Often drinking and other addictions lead to death, and you mentioned in the past you do not drink anymore. Anyway, if that's too personal, I understand. I just think many could benefit from your feedback right now. While inflation is hitting businesses hard, bars and liquor stores are thriving, and I do think our current state of affairs has a lot to do with that. Yeah, it's weird. It's like in a recession or a depression, right? Alcohol always stays pretty solid. Bars never really have an issue. I have read a couple things about what to stock up on in an end of the world SHTF scenario, and booze is always one of them. You know, it never gets old. But for me personally, when I initially got sober, I did AA meetings. That was helpful for me, helpful to get around people that kind of have dealt with that same kind of thing. I was never really in like. I mean, like my drinking had become like an issue, but it wasn't like I didn't lose my family or my job, or you know what I mean. But I knew that I had a history of alcoholism in my family, and I had young kids growing up, and I just decided to get it under control. If you have a drinking problem, I mean, there's so many AA meetings. I would go to them in Murfreesboro, and I still do from time to time when I feel I need the help. But I would just say. Find somebody that you can talk to, and there's always support structures if you do need help with your drinking. And it doesn't make you weak by asking for help. In fact, a lot of times it's one of the strongest things you can do, because it's a lot easier to suffer alone. You know, that's the easier route. So if you do need help, I mean, you can always shoot me a text on the super text line. I'm happy to help you find a meeting if you need help. And talk you through that, or you can shoot me an email. It's chris.hand@cumulus.com. I'm always willing to help people with that kind of stuff. It's important, and it's important to just kind of like be in control of your own life, and be there for your family. And that's pretty much why I stopped drinking. And also, again, faith in God, and that will help you. Having a higher power than yourself really was big for me. But good text, and I really appreciate it. It kind of leads me into this next caller, Brian in Greenbrier. He has a biblical question on this Agenda-Free Friday. What's up, Brian? You're on Super Talk.
Hey, man, thanks for taking the call, and thanks
Absolutely.
for your Christian testimony.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you. What's up?
Means a lot. I've been struggling with three things for a long time, but just this morning you've kind of lit the fire again, and they're biblical verses, they're Bible verses, and you know the authorities that exist have been established by God. It makes us question why He would let leaders in these terrible places come to power and kill people and do what they do. It makes me question Biden. It really does. I don't want him to die or get killed, but sometimes, honestly, I do. I want them people to be eliminated. The other thing is love your enemies. I've struggled with that all my life, or all my Christian life. I've probably been a Christian longer than you are alive. I'm in my 60s. I became a Christian in 1977. I made a public profession, and I've hit peaks and valleys all my life, just like most.
Yep.
Struggling, but then I come back and I kind of feel like a man after God's own heart. Sometimes I know he. The worst in the Bible, almost killed a man, had an affair, all that. I've never done that, but I never killed anybody. But and then how does a Christian respond to this illegal alien immigration problem when the Bible says if they sojourn in your country to take them in and love them, and then you go back through those other two where it says love your enemies, and then respect the authorities that have been appointed by God. It's a big struggle for me. I hope that maybe you can shed some light.
mean, it's a struggle for me too, and I totally get where you're at. I feel like for me, with my Christian faith, it's like, the tree gets blown in the wind, but the roots are secure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I struggle with those thoughts too. And I personally, like, even with all the Israel stuff, it's like a lot of people are like, oh, we got to wipe them off the face of the earth. It's like, I don't like it. With all the border stuff, it's like, we got to round them all up and deport them. You know, we got to put the military down the border. We need, full scale war. It's like, I hate the war talk. I hate beating the war drum. Does something need to be done? Like, yes, absolutely. Sometimes I feel like it's out of my pay range. You know what I mean? I can pray on it. I can pray for peace, and I hope that's what happens. I can pray for security, and I hope that's what happens. But at a certain point, I feel like for me as a Christian, the best thing I can do is raise up warriors for a new generation. Like, I'm blessed with 4 kids. And so that's where my focus is day in and day out. And that, that to me will raise a stronger country and a stronger nation is
Amen. And I'm blessed with 3. They're adults now, and I can't tell you how proud I am. I wish I could tell you their names right now, but I get emotional when I talk about my children. I appreciate you saying that. So
I get it,
man.
man.
Have a good day. It's just a few things that I struggle with. But it's like you say, I mean, and it could be a mystery. The Bible talks about mysteries, and you're not going to know everything.
Yep.
So like you say, it's above my pay grade. Absolutely it is. But I appreciate you. I agree with 95% of what you say all the time, 5% some of the time, and 5% I disagree 100%. But I don't call you every time. So.
Hey, if you disagree with me, you get bumped to the front of the line, Brian. So,
I know that, but I don't do it on purpose. So
hey, I
appreciate y'all.
Hey,
you have a great Friday.
You too, man. God bless. I appreciate you calling. I mean, for the religion stuff is tough. It's like you want to be a good Christian. You also want to be a good citizen. I don't know. I'm not like a religious expert, obviously. I try to read my Bible. I probably need to read it more than I do. I try to be a good Christian, and like every Christian, we all fall short, and we could all be better Christians. But it's like a daily grind. Be better tomorrow than you were today. John in the Borough, you have a comment on the debt. John, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up?
Hey, Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Hey, I got another point to your previous caller.
Okay.
So Christ did not appoint Joe Biden. It's all the faithless people in this country that have gone away from being a Christian, that are led by the devil, that has appointed these people into office.
81 million.
That's my comment on him. So, but my thing about the debt. So everybody is calling in and complaining about the debt, complaining about the government and everything else. We're spending trillions and trillions of dollars for these other countries, okay? Basically, there is a way that we can take our country back, and it won't be easy, and it doesn't have to be with violence. But if we want to take this country back, we are the worker bees of this country. It is our money that we work 50 and 60 and 70 hours a week that the government is taking our money to fund all of this crap that they want to fund for it. What we need to do, we need to be like Ford and GM. We need to go on strike, and we need to determine the next government shutdown. We've got 20 to 25 days before they're going to start talking about a government shutdown again. Let us determine that shutdown. Let the American people take a stand. Do not go to work. Do not pay taxes. It's going to be rough, and people are going to need to prepare. But once that government shuts down, then we get rid of them, and then we go in and we elect a whole new government that's going to get this country back on track, that is going to be a Christian government and lead by God's ways.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I like the idea. I just don't know if you would ever get any momentum behind it, just with the way the country is. And then secondly, they did shut down the country. We remember the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and they just let the money machines go burr and printed more money. So I don't know,
But if they want to print more money and they want to keep printing more money, then print $33 trillion and pay our debt off.
Yeah.
See, that's the whole thing. They want to talk about printing more money. They're going to print more money and send to these other countries and print more money to do this and borrow money from this one and borrow money from that one. It's never going to stop. It's just another cycle. You know, it's like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. Until we drain the swamp and get rid of all of them, it's never going to change.
No.
We need term limits. We need to get rid of all the ones that have been there, and we need to take control of this country again and let it be back to we the people.
Hey, I get it, man. I get where you're at, and I get the frustration. Thanks for the call, John. I do appreciate you. I don't know if we could get people behind going on strike in the country. Interesting idea. I don't know. Tony, on line 3, you got a comment on income tax. Tony, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, man?
Yes, sir. How you doing today, Chris?
Good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. I've been listening to you guys for a very long time, and I've watched the deficit clock many times, and it hasn't changed. In fact, it's increased. Now, I've been working since I was 14, was in the military. When I got low, if I needed to buy a truck or a car, I had to get me an extra job.
Yep.
I had to produce income somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my question and my thing is, the working man, the working people, women, men, we are paying for the whole country, the whole world. And not everybody here in the United States is paying income tax. Now, if they change the way they collect income tax and done it at the cash register, and they could figure out the percentage, would that not generate enough money to pull this country up?
Maybe.
That's my complaint.
Yeah.
We got illegals coming in here every day. How can we pay for them?
Well, we can't. We can't. It's completely unsustainable, Tony. It is. It's not a recipe for success. And I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. You know, yeah. With the amount of illegals coming in, we can't afford it. We just can't. We can't keep up. We can't keep up with all the social programs we had if we didn't have illegals pouring in with our debt at what it's at. It's absolutely insane. Hey, it's an agenda-free Friday on the Chris Hand Show. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. 615-737-9986. Tucker Carlson was on with on this podcast with Theo Vaughn. He's a stand-up comedian. And he had some interesting comments about Bobby Kennedy and Trump. And Tucker thinks that Bobby's going to steal votes from Trump, not Joe Biden. I disagree. But we'll talk about that after the break. This is Tucker saying he thinks Bobby will steal votes from Trump. Oh, right here.
Who is Kennedy taken from?
What do you think? Trump.
You think?
Of course. There's no person who's thinking, I'm going to vote either for Joe Biden or Bobby Kennedy.
I have some friends that are.
No way.
I swear.
Really?
I have some friends that have known Bobby. I mean, these are people that have known Bobby Kennedy for a long time, but who are Democrats who are like, this is my guy.
The only reason you would vote for Joe Biden is because you believe there's safety in numbers. You're voting for the party. You're not, obviously, I'm not attacking Biden, but you're not voting for Biden. Mm-hmm. You're voting for the Democratic Party because you think when they have more power, you're safer or richer or whatever.
Right.
All right. Do you think Bobby Kennedy is going to steal more votes from Trump? I disagree. I'll tell you why after the break. It's 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
America's top diplomat in Israel again. We've got a brand new jobs report, and the debate over daylight saving time rages again. These stories and more at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is 9:57 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's an agenda-free Friday. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. Is there a news story that you don't think has gotten the attention it deserves? I got a couple. Including one from Sarah Huckabee Sanders, which we'll get to. Also, getting to your calls next. Rob and Lisa, thank you for holding. And I got a text here from Jason. Jason, he texts, he says, I'm late today.
Oh, well.
Show starts at 9.
Show's at 9, man.
Show starts at 9,
Come
Jason.
on, Jason.
And he also asks, has Todd safely delivered the mail? Todd is also another listener who is quite often late to the show, which starts at 9.
Again, 9 o'clock, sharp.
Just
doing this for a minute.
We've been doing it since July. Show starts at 9, guys. We have not heard from Todd yet.
Yeah, no word from Todd, which is weird. He's usually not this late. Jeez.
He's usually late, but he's not usually this late. So somebody check on Todd for us.
Boys, this doesn't bode well for the daylight saving change this weekend.
Oh, my gosh.
I didn't even think about that.
I didn't think about that at all. These guys are going to be so late on Monday.
They're going to miss so much of the show.
You guys got to start practicing waking up early over the weekend because the show starts at 9, fellas. And we are willing to talk about anything you want to talk about. 615-737-9986. Again, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, is she one of the most popular governors in the country? Or is she one of the least popular in the country? We'll talk about that and why I think these two polls are saying what they're saying about her. After the break, it is 9:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. Find me on the Gram, Twitter, or True Social. All of them are at Chris Hand on air, and hit the follow button. I will follow back. Right now, Ken Weaver standing by with the latest headlines on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Got to tell you about a crash right now. It is impacting 24 westbound in Laverne. This crash is blocking the right lane right after Old Hickory Boulevard. Right now in Israel, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu and other officials, describing additional video he has seen from the October 7th Hamas attacks and how that is no longer a conversation.
It is striking and in some ways shocking that the brutality of the slaughter has receded so quickly in the memories of so many.
Now, Blinken is there to urge Israel to agree to a series of humanitarian pauses in fighting for hostages and aid. Right here at home, the Labor Department saying the U.S. economy added 150,000 jobs last month. That's less than half of what was created in September. Elizabeth Schulze.
This cooling labor market is good news for the Fed as it tries to tame inflation. After the Fed this week kept interest rates at a 22-year high, some investors are now betting that it will stop raising rates altogether. Households are already feeling the impact of those higher borrowing costs. Credit card interest rates are at a record nearly 21%. New car loans have almost doubled to around 8%. Mortgage rates also hovering around 8%. So this slowdown in job and wage growth could convince the Fed that it can hold off on additional rate hikes, at least for now.
Well, we'll see next month. The debate over daylight saving time is raging again, with Americans preparing to fall back 1 hour to standard time early Sunday morning. In the past 5 years, 19 states have passed legislation or resolutions supporting year-round daylight saving time. But the American Medical Association says standard time is healthier and more natural because by getting darker earlier at night, it sets people up for better sleep cycles.
When you're in standard time, your internal body clock, your biological clock, is going to be more aligned with a sun clock, which is, your environmental clock.
That is Dr. Phyllis Z with the Center for Circadian and Sleep Medicine at Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
My name is Ray. I was addicted to cocaine. I used cocaine to suppress my depression, the loneliness I was going through. I would put cocaine before my family, before anything that I did. Facility here, they take the time to get to know you, to see what you need. They give you classes, life coaches, therapists. They give you all the resources and the tools to equip yourself to do better. It would make me feel at home. It would make me feel safe, that they actually care, because a lot of facilities, they do it for the money. I'm going to pursue my culinary degree and probably pursue music. Just glad to experience this. The Life Recovery Program, it's been a great experience for me. I have no complaint.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's the Chris Hand Show, 10:05 on this agenda-free Friday. It's warming up a little bit out there, 50 degrees. That's nice. I'll take it.
Yeah, why not?
I love the fall weather. I kind of front sold two stories I want to talk about on this agenda-free Friday. The first is Tucker Carlson's appearance on this Theo Vaughn podcast and some of the stuff he said. And then the second is Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I don't know. Which one you want to do first? Sarah Huckabee or Tucker Theo Vaughn?
Okay, let's start with Sarah Huckabee.
Okay, let's start with Sarah Huckabee.
Yeah.
All right. Do you remember a couple weeks ago where was it a couple weeks ago already? I think it maybe have been last week. She kicked China out of Arkansas.
Oh, wow. That might have been a couple weeks ago now. That's crazy.
So this was like a big news story, and I feel like nobody talked about it. Sarah Huckabee Sanders effectively kicking China out of Arkansas.
I'm announcing that Syngenta, a Chinese state-owned agrochemical company, must give up its land holdings in Arkansas. Syngenta owns 160 acres in northeast Arkansas, which it uses primarily for seed research. The company that owns Syngenta, Chem China, is also on the Department of Defense's list of Chinese military companies posing a clear threat to our state. Seeds are technology. Chinese state-owned corporations filter that technology back to their homeland, stealing American research and telling our enemies how to target American farms. That is a clear threat to our national security and to our great farmers.
So she basically kicks China out of Arkansas. Now one of the things she was talking about is the seed technology and threats to American farmers, and there's quite a bit there that is a threat. Now, that was a big story, I felt like, that didn't get any coverage. Now, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is back in the news today, and there's a new poll out, the annual Arkansas poll, okay? And in this annual Arkansas poll, they say that Sarah Huckabee Sanders has the approval rating, her approval rating is the lowest for an Arkansas governor in 20 years. 20 years. That's weird. It's like, I like her.
Isn't that since like her dad too?
Yeah, so it's since her dad, right? So then I'm like, okay, why?
Yeah,
Why does she have
what's
this
going
low approval rating? So then I start Googling more, right? I'm hitting the internet, surfing the web. And then there's actually a different poll, a new Morning Consult poll that lists Governor Sanders as the 12th most popular governor in the country, with a 60% approval rating. And that came out a day after this Arkansas poll put her at 48%. So I'm like, that's weird.
Very weird.
And this other poll that came out has her as the 12th most popular governor in the country. And I was like, okay, if you're power ranking governors, like Sarah Huckabee Sanders has to be up there pretty high, right? Like who there's so many governors that you could be like way lower than Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
The fact that we know her, that would put her up there.
100%. I mean, you can go down the list. DeSantis is probably pretty popular. I don't know. Would Lee? I feel like Sarah Huckabee Sanders would be more popular than Lee.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. On a national level, I'd assume.
Right?
Yeah, getting out of my Tennessee bias. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then there's other governors that are just terrible, like Kathy Hochul in New York. Like, okay. So I was wondering, like, why does this Arkansas poll, have her at such a low approval rating? So I said, who did this poll? Okay, so the University of Arkansas did the poll. Okay. Weird. And then, so I was like, okay, well, she just kicked China out of her state. The University of Arkansas did the poll. I remember this story from last year, January of 22, where a University of Arkansas professor pleads guilty to lying to federal agents about patents in China. They had Chinese spies on their payroll. Wow. An Arkansas man and University of Arkansas professor pleaded guilty today to one count of making false statements to the FBI about the existence of patents for his inventions in the People's Republic of China. So they have people on their payroll that work for China. They get money from China. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders kicked China out of Arkansas.
So no wonder their approval rating's going to be low.
I can't say that definitively that's why the polling happened. I'm just I'm out here looking at dots and connecting them and saying, oh, all right, that's weird.
Dang,
isn't that weird?
That is, and see, I'm someone who just scrolling, I see that and I'm like, wow, that's weird. But I didn't dive down the rabbit hole, so I'm sure there's many like me who go, wow, I guess they don't like Sarah.
You have to dive down rabbit holes. If you see one, dive down it. I've never met a rabbit hole I didn't want to dive down. I just swear to you.
That's why we're friends. I go to you. You dive down the rabbit hole.
Even ones that are just like completely ridiculous, like Ashton Kutcher's dressing up like John Fetterman. Yes. I'm like, all right, I'm in. Here we go.
Some Googles.
Here we go. Let's hit the Google machine. Where was Fetterman and where was Kutcher this weekend?
Have they ever been in the same room?
But that's far fetched. Still fun. But this is not as far fetched. We know China is embedded in a lot of these universities. We know that foreign Chinese students are in a lot of these universities, and it's not shocking that this particular university does have ties and former professors that plead guilty to essentially working for the People's Republic of China. Interesting, maybe unrelated, but fascinating stuff. And I think I'm going to go on record and say the Arkansas poll is trash. Woke, commie, trash. So, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, 12th most popular. We'll go with 12th most popular in the country.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm like, I don't know. Are there 12 more popular governors than her?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. 12? That seems like a lot.
Like, can you even name 12 other governors?
That's what I'm saying, man.
Like, I don't even know. DeSantis, and then you start thinking about the ones that we like, and I'm like, well, like Greg Abbott, I might think he's great, but a lot of people probably hate him.
For sure.
DeSantis, I don't know. A lot of people really like him.
Like, where's Gavin Newsom?
I don't know. He's tackling kids in China. He's probably got a pretty favorable approval rating from the Chinese polls. There's other polls out according to the Hill. The Hill has a story on this poll for the presidential race. They released it on Wednesday. Quinnipiac University poll shows Biden narrowly ahead of Trump by 1 point, 47 to 46, within the margin of error. 81 million votes, most popular president in history. But that's in a head-to-head matchup. But anyway, a three-way race with Kennedy. Biden is ahead with 39%. Trump has 36%, and Kennedy has 22%. Now, I bring that up to talk about what Tucker Carlson was saying with Theo Vaughn, which I thought was interesting. Tucker thinks that Bobby Kennedy is going to steal votes from Trump. I don't see that being the case. Here are Tucker's comments on this podcast with Theo Vaughn.
Who is Kennedy taken from?
What do you think? Trump.
You think?
Of course. There's no person who's thinking, I'm going to vote either for Joe Biden or Bobby Kennedy.
I have some friends that are.
No way.
I swear.
Really?
I have some friends that have known Bobby. I mean, these are people that have known Bobby Kennedy for a long time, but who are Democrats who are like, this is my guy.
The only reason you would vote for Joe Biden is because you believe there's safety in numbers. You're voting for the party. You're not, obviously, I'm not attacking Biden, but you're not voting for Biden. Mm-hmm. You're voting for the Democratic Party because you think when they have more power, you're safer or richer or whatever.
Right.
So do you think that RFK was really going to steal more votes from Trump? Now, listen, I follow RFK on the gram. I do. And I've been paying attention to him since COVID. I like his stance on vaccines. I really do. That's kind of where our similarities end. But when I watch this now, I've spent a decade in, radio. I have a lot of friends in the music industry. I have a lot of friends that have very liberal political leanings. Friends, acquaintances, people on the internets, right? And every time I see an RFK post, I'll tell you what, more and more of the people that I would expect to be Biden voters, I see liking the RFK post. Very rarely do I see what I would view as a conservative friend liking RFK posts. Now, maybe that's just algorithm insanity and, who knows. But I just don't see it that RFK Jr. would steal more votes from Trump than Biden. Now, maybe at this point in time you could make the argument, but if it got more serious and we went down the road of RFK being an actual threat, I think we would get more from him policy-wise that would make conservatives go, yeah, no, hard pass. And I think that he has a lot on record that would make a lot of us say no. And a lot of conservatives do like him because of his stances during COVID and how principled he is in that arena. But they're not going to like everything that RFK Jr. has to say. And he says a lot of wonky things. And he's been around while the internet existed. I mean, RFK Jr. a couple years ago called for a smart grid that could easily be turned on and off by the U.S. government. That's what RFK Jr. likes.
How is a broke federal government going to invest this much money to build a national grid?
Well, the grid itself is not going to cost that much. The grid itself will probably cost about $250 billion to build a smart grid that reaches most of America, and that can do the things that we need to do, like can send signals through the line, allow the utilities to send a signal through the line to turn off the hot water boilers in 1 million homes for 15 minutes in order to avoid the peak demand that is the most expensive part of our electrical system. If you eliminated peak, you save enough natural gas in our country to power the entire U.S. Passenger car fleet. And we can do that just by using the grid smartly. A grid that send a signal to turn off all the electric toothbrush rechargers, to turn off your swimming pool recirculators and all of these things. You don't care if somebody turns them off for 15 minutes and you sign.
No, I care. I care. Don't ever turn off my toothbrush. Don't ever suggest something that insulting again. How dare you? How dare you, sir? I will decide when I charge my toothbrush. I will decide about my hot water heater. And I don't want any smart grid where the government is going to easily be able to turn on and off your utilities. And listen, this is what RFK Jr. believes in. This is a quick little search. You can find this stuff. It's out there. The internet existed while this man lived and made statements about what he believes. And I think that if we got into the weeds, we're going to find a lot more clips like this where RFK just puts his foot in his mouth and will make it, it makes him unelectable to a conservative. He's on board with green energy. He's on board with reparations. Like these things do not compute with conservatives. I can't honestly believe that RFK Jr. is going to steal votes from Trump in a general. Like we can say it's all fun and good now, and maybe RFK steals some polling numbers currently, but he's not going to steal votes from Trump in a general. They are too different. There's only one person that he can steal votes from in a general, and that's going to be Joe Biden, because their policies are so similar. And that's one of the reasons why the Democrat Party was afraid to platform RFK in the first place, because he's a threat to Joe Biden. If RFK Jr. Wasn't a threat, there would have been a debate. The Democrats are afraid of RFK Jr. And I think that a lot of this, he's going to pull more votes away from Trump, is just more propaganda. I just don't believe it. They do point out that minority and younger voters seem intrigued with Kennedy. And for now, Kennedy's enjoying those demographics supporting him. Well, yeah. Biden's lost the minority vote. The youth don't believe in Biden. He's too old. Of course. And people will tell you that Kennedy is a prominent anti-vaxxer. But he started out as an environmental lawyer, pushing forward with clean and green policies. That's where he made his bread and butter. That's how he basically made his name for himself before, you get into the Kennedy last name. Cleaned up the rivers in New York. This is what the guy does. But to say that he's shifting to the right, well, anything. What did Trump? Somebody said the other day, anything just a little bit to the right is to the right of this radical left. So maybe he's more right, but I don't see him stealing any votes from Trump. I just don't see it. It's an Agenda-Free Friday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Anything you want to talk about? 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Specifically regarding precision ag, this is a movement or an initiative that Pheasants and Quail Forever is taking on where we can help farmers take advantage of the data they collect and during harvest, during planting season, and use that to identify areas in the field that are underproducing for whatever reason. Maybe it's shade, water, there's perennial wet spots, odd areas that are just hard to farm. Farm equipment's getting big now, and it's hard to farm some of these smaller areas. And so these areas that the yield isn't high enough to exceed the input costs, we're losing money on those acres. So Are there some alternate land use covers, wildlife covers that we can use and put on the ground that benefit wildlife but also benefit the bottom line? There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of conservation programs and conservation practices out there that can benefit the land and that require management. And so some people might be familiar with the Conservation Reserve Program, or CRP. And that is a program administered by USDA for farmers and landowners to take those certain areas out of production and return them to a wildlife cover beneficial to different wildlife.
We started taking non-productive acres years ago and putting them in CRP, and seeing a great benefit of that, not only for wildlife, but erosion control and the money side of it. We have to make a living to stay in business just like everybody else. If you've got non-productive acres that you're losing money on, and you can get something out of them, plus benefit the soil from erosion, plus benefit the wildlife.
America's top diplomat is in Israel. We've got a new jobs report. And heads up, drivers, going to be delays in downtown Nashville this weekend. These stories are more 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's an agenda-free Friday. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. And I got a text here. It says, what about, oh, man, I just lost the text. Jeez Louise. Oh, Peter texted in. How about Pelosi's subpoena? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Nancy Pelosi was subpoenaed. She disclosed to Congress on Wednesday she was issued a subpoena as part of a federal criminal case in her home state as her husband's attacker is headed to trial this month. So there was like this big audio blip on Fox News. This is to notify you formally that pursuant to Rule 8, Nancy Pelosi subpoenaed. So they are saying a spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Northern District of California says, we have no comment on the possibility that the speaker might have received a subpoena and no further comment on the case in general at this time. So, yeah, she was subpoenaed. A spokesman for Pelosi declined to comment, said it's an ongoing legal matter. But a source suggested to the Post, the New York Post, that the subpoena was related to the hammer attack with David DePape, the 42-year-old guy who broke into Paul's house and allegedly screamed, "Where's Nancy?" before hitting Paul Pelosi with a hammer. I don't know. It's weird. It's interesting. But I don't think that it has anything to do with Nancy, right? Would it have anything to do with Nancy? It seems like it's just the attacker in his case. If convicted on those charges, the charges that he's facing, which is 2 counts of attempted kidnapping of a federal officer or employee and assault, he faces a maximum sentence of 50 years in prison. 50 years.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. I mean, can't really be hitting people in the head with hammers and expect to get away with it unless it's a conservative. I think that you know, with the 2-tier justice system that we have in this country, you'd be better off doing that to a conservative than a Democrat.
1061 texted in and said, Nancy doesn't have a subpoena. She's a female.
Oh, thank you. Well, we don't assume anything on the Chris Hand Show. 1061. 9058 says Pelosi may have paid him. I guess. I don't know. 0227, unless the attacker claims she hired him to go in with the hammer. I mean, listen, guys, I love conspiracy theories and rabbit holes, but I don't know.
We're also getting texts about this RFK and Trump thing. 7662 says, I was going to vote for Trump, but I've been watching RFK on TikTok. I'm going to vote for Kennedy. The Dems and Republicans hate him, therefore I like him.
I don't know. Really? Like, you going to let TikTok change your mind? I feel like TikTok to me is like it is propaganda at its truest form. TikTok is, but listen, the Zoomers they use TikTok. Gen Z, we affectionately call them Zoomers. They use TikTok as a news source. This is just reality. The younger you go, the more they like RFK Jr. I'm not a fan of TikTok. I think TikTok should be banned in this country. Full stop. It's run by the Chinese government. The algorithms are swayed to make our population dumber. If TikTok is telling you it's a good idea, it's not a good idea. Run away from it as fast as you can. In TikTok, the algorithms that they use in China show their young kids engineering and science feats, and the algorithm in America shows kids lighting themselves on fire for fire challenges and doing spicy chip challenges. Like, I mean,
yeah, Tide Pod crap. Yeah,
TikTok is the enemy of the state. Get rid of it. I would never let my kids on TikTok. Not a fan. I wouldn't even let it. I don't even have it on my phone. I will never have it on my phone, and I don't click TikTok links. Just not a fan. Will not support TikTok. What did Elon Musk say the other day during his interview with Joe Rogan? He said TikTok. Well, he said Twitter is the only social media company not controlled by the government. And you know what? If you have a social media company controlled by the government, personally, I'd rather have it controlled by the U.S. government than the Chinese government. I feel like that's a step even further. It's just it's absolutely crazy. People do like a lot of people on the text line. They think that RFK could pull votes in swing states where the elections are determined. People like RFK. I would just warn against it. He's got a lot of policies that is not conservative at all. Reparations? You think reparations is a conservative policy? Green New Deal, smart grids, being able to shut off, your water heater. Let the government do that? That's what RFK likes. 0398 says Kennedy is a Democrat no matter what you say. The Democrat, he's done. But loser, he destroyed the country, just satisfying Democrats' low life. So, 0398's got to work on the spelling. It started out pretty good. 0398's using talk to text. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver with the latest news on Super Talk.
$10:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now, we've got some bad traffic problems. Looks like 24 eastbound is closed at Cedar Hill in Robertson County. That's because of, looks like a crash maybe. Also in Murfreesboro, police activity has the left shoulder blocked, 24 eastbound right after Joe B. Jackson Parkway. And then closer to Nashville, Laverne, you got 24 westbound, right lane blocked right after Old Hickory Boulevard due to a crash. It starts bumper to bumper at Sam Ridley Parkway. And right now in Israel, Secretary of State Antony Blinken's in Tel Aviv for talks with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Here's what he told the media about the ongoing war with Hamas.
We need to do more to protect Palestinian civilians.
Blinken carrying President Biden's call not for a ceasefire, but a series of humanitarian pauses to get aid into Gaza and help hostages. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
10:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is an agenda-free Friday on the Chris Hand Show. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. Any stories you feel like need more attention? Anything we missed this week? 615-737-9986. It's crazy. The news cycle moves so fast that it's hard to keep up sometimes with all the stuff going on. There's been a lot of talk about this Tucker Carlson clip with Theo Vaughn, where he thinks that most people would think Bobby Kennedy is going to be stealing votes from Trump, not Joe Biden. I don't agree with it. I think that Bobby Kennedy is going to steal votes from Biden, not Donald Trump. Corey in the borough, you have some thoughts on RFK Jr. You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Corey?
Oh, not much, my friend. Just enjoying the show on this beautiful day in Tennessee.
Hey, man, it's awesome out there.
And saying that he won't steal them from Trump is kind of naive, because I feel that the moderate or progressive Republicans, if there is such a thing, saying that they're a one-issue voter is what it would come down to, and all they're hearing is about Kennedy saying that he's against the vaccine, he's against the vaccines, and he's on the same page with that. But like you said, completely ignoring everything else that he believes. And so when people say, I don't like Trump, you go down to one issue, and it could be just the vaccine, even though they have the same feeling on the same issue, or on that issue, rather. So I definitely see, affecting 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 people who say Trump is, I can't stand him kind of thing, and just saying it's a one-issue thing, not realizing that the TikToking and everything is convincing them that they're different on the same, or on the vaccine issue. So they don't realize they feel the same way. So, but that way they don't have to vote for Trump.
Yeah, but I feel like even the vaccine issue, I think that a lot of people don't realize that crunchy granola liberals who, the ladies have armpit hair and they live in Portland, they're anti-vaccine too. And Joe Biden mandated the thing. I think that they don't realize how many Democrats are going to vote for RFK Jr. because of that as well.
Right, I agree, and I think that the Democrats are missing an opportunity, though, is at the same time that if they would back him and support him with any amount of vigor, that they would definitely have a very viable candidate to win against Trump because of that. That way they can say, I voted for a Democrat, and see how moderate I am, or how progressive I am, how I'm not a real Republican, or I believe in the Second Amendment, same thing. But then you do all these things that restrict your rights, saying that you're a conservative or a Republican. So that's what I think people justify it to themselves doing it that way.
Well, I mean, to your point, I think that RFK Jr. would be a lot more of a threat if the Democrat Party was behind him. If he had that support, I think that it would be a lot different of a conversation, RFK versus Trump. As it stands,
100%.
They're not supporting him at all. They're not platforming him. Joe Biden won't even give the man Secret Service. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So I don't think that he's going to have a major chance in the upcoming election. Just because of that.
I don't think it's going to cost Trump anything. I think Trump, and I still will vote for Trump 100% because I'm not a Kennedy fan. I mean, aside from what he's doing to the liberals, going to make them go crazy. But I definitely still vote for Trump, and I think most will, and I think he will still win in the end. But to say even if he gets 9% away from him or anything around that would be saying something, even though Trump ultimately won.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at best it's a wash, right? I think at best RFK steals equal amount from both parties, and I also think that in terms of Trump, if there's anything that we can really criticize what he did, it's Operation Warp Speed, it's shutting down the country, it's not firing Fauci. There's a lot of failure in the COVID policies from Trump. There really is.
100%.
And I think we can all be honest about that. That being said, the man's not a doctor. He was listening to people that he thought were the experts, and he made the wrong choice. But unless RFK gets some actual backing from the Democrat Party, I don't think he's a real threat.
I agree 100%, yes.
Hey, man, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much, Corey, for listening. It's an agenda-free Friday. Anything you want to talk about, 615-737-9986. I just think it's 1476 says RFK is a diversion. It feels like it. Feels like it's a little side mission. Doesn't feel like it's the actual goal. It seems like we're staring down the barrel of inevitability of Biden versus Trump too. Meh. It would be a lot more interesting if it was RFK versus Trump and the Democrat Party would get behind RFK. But I think the Democrat Party is afraid of RFK Jr. because at the end of the day, he's authentic to himself. He's not controlled by the party. He will say what he actually believes, and they would rather have the guy that just does what he's told and calls on people that have been pre-selected.
Freedom.
Our democracy's at stake. I mean, Joe Biden is absolutely controlled by the Democrat Party. And you see it when he goes to take questions from reporters. They can zoom in on his little note card, and it'll be a CBS reporter and a picture of the reporter. Like, it is so laid out for him what he's doing and where he's going. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they have even his falls planned out to a T. Like, with him walking, like, all right, you're going to fall over here, Mr. President. Like, everything he does is planned out. But I don't know. People do like RFK. I get why they like him. We were talking off the air, and I think, and this may seem superficial, his voice is going to be one of his biggest detriments.
It's going to be a problem. Yeah, on the debate stage.
We've heard it so many times. I'll play an RFK clip, and I get so many texts like, is that really RFK Jr.? Is that how he talks?
Yeah, well, he needs to cough. He needs to get something out of it. Yeah, it's not going to help. I think it's dysphonia. That's what it's called.
Dysphonia?
Dysphonia. They don't really know how it's caused, but it affects your vocal cords.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
No, it's superficial, but that's the way it works.
We are a superficial society. I mean, look at Ron DeSantis with his boots.
Yes, exactly.
Like, it's on both sides. Democrats and Republicans. We can act like we're all great people, but we are all superficial. And
if Donald Trump was 5'6", I'm not saying he wouldn't be what he is today, but I think it'd have an effect.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. Would he have been president if he was 5'6"?
I don't know.
Probably not. And on to DeSantis. I mean, I don't think DeSantis has any chance. He told MSNBC that he supports sending more military aid to Ukraine because he wants to bring the conflict to a conclusion. Ron. Thanks, Ron. It was an interview he did with Morning Joe yesterday. He says he doesn't support giving a blank check to Ukraine, but he does support sending them more military aid. Okay. You don't support a blank check, but let's keep sending them blank checks. Got it. He said, as president, I'm going to leverage resources. I'm going to get the Europeans to do more. I'm going to do more on the energy side. It's like, he just seems like you're regurgitating Donald Trump talking points. Just about 4 inches lower.
It seems to kind of be his thing.
And he's begging Trump for a debate. He's begging him for a debate. He says he would wear a boot on his head if Donald Trump would do a debate with him. And Trump won't. Trump has nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. I mean, everything to lose. I'm sorry. DeSantis has nothing to lose. DeSantis could walk around with a boot on his head for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
He has nothing to lose.
And Trump has nothing to gain.
Trump has nothing to gain. Exactly. Sorry. My mistake.
No, that makes sense.
Even in Florida, Senator Rick Scott, who usually does not endorse Florida primaries, and he's endorsed Donald Trump over DeSantis. Like, even all of the government officials in Florida are on the Trump train. Senator Scott says it's time to bring the party together and focus on the general election next November. Yeah, it is. Vivek Ramaswamy said something similar when Mike Pence dropped out. Although Vivek, it was funny, Vivek says one thing, and he kind of doesn't realize that he's talking about himself in the exact same vein. This was Vivek when Mike Pence dropped out. Oh, this is Vivek.
I think that he is doing a service to the American people by making a focused debate about who actually leads this country forward. So whoever you're in the press, don't misquote that as some backhanded neg on Pence. It's not. I think that's an honorable decision, is what I mean that in a true sense. That's an honorable decision. And I think that it is one that maybe certain others in this race should also consider.
Yeah, certain others like Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Ron DeSantis. It's time to stop the games and the tomfoolery and the shilling for donations. Like, I'm over it. Nikki Haley went on a podcast with Charlemagne the God, who, if you don't know, is a big guy in hip-hop. He was the one that interviewed Biden when he said, if you don't know if you're voting for Trump or me, then you ain't black. Charlemagne the God is very well known in the hip-hop community. He has the #1 show in New York on Power 105 in the mornings. Nikki Haley goes on his podcast to try to what is she doing? Do you think Nikki Haley's going to win over the hip hop community? Like, no. What? You're just wasting everyone's time. This is a waste of time. Nikki Haley's wasting our time. Ron DeSantis is wasting our time. Vivek Ramaswamy wasting our time. The only one I'm looking forward to at this debate next week is Chris Christie.
Chris, just because he's entertaining.
Yeah, I love the Donald Duck line. Can you imagine the planning that went into that Donald Duck line?
Oh, yeah.
Like, he had a room full of consultants, and they were like, listen, we got the line that's going to take Trump out, and you are going to go viral on Twitter. You're going to get ready. You ready? Going to call him Donald Duck. Christie's like, dude, who thought of that? You thought of that? That's a race. You got a
nice
race.
job.
Like, everybody slapping hands. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. All of these GOP nominees are just wasting our time. Trump is light years ahead, and he has no reason to debate any of them. He just needs to wait them out. He waited out Pence, and he's going to wait out the others. I'm with it. They can keep trying, but let's be honest. Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, take Vivek's advice.
One that maybe certain others in this race should also consider.
Yeah. Drop out. Drop out. It's time. Time to get on the Trump train. Bob and Dixon, you have a comment on term limits. Bob, you're a fan of term limits? Talk to me.
Yeah. I've been thinking about a lot of the problems that we have with how much swamp we have. And it's because they're too long in there. Okay? So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and start a movement that we can do in Tennessee. You know, we cannot get all the senators to agree to limit their time in office. It's just not going to happen. But somebody needs to go first. We can do a referendum here in the state of Tennessee that says you can only run 2 terms for senator, 3 terms for representative.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. I like the idea, and thanks for the call, Bob. A lot of people want term limits. We would have to get them to vote for it, and that's probably not going to happen. You know, our new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is also a big fan of term limits. He's pushed term limits over and over and over again. Again, it's probably not going to happen. I had a super texter or it was a caller a couple weeks back who brought up an even more interesting idea. We can't get them to agree on term limits. What about term gaps? Where you get two terms in a row, and then you need to have an off term, and then you can come back. And I think that would solve a lot of the problems that I have with term limits when, like, yes, we would get rid of the swampy ones, but we'd also get rid of the good ones like Rand Paul. You know, we would get rid of some of our favorites who are in there doing that work day in and day out. So I don't know. I could get behind term gaps. I'm not not a super big fan of term limits. I get the idea. I worry about the unintended consequences. And it's always a game of unintended consequences up in DC. That's where we get in trouble. It's not what we do. It's what happens after we do what we do. Like every single time. 1051 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's an agenda-free Friday. Anything you want to talk about? Any news stories we've missed? 615-737-9986. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. Man, with these past couple days being so cold, if your heater's not working, you know by now. And if you need to have a guy to call, well, you know now. It's Jeff Eddy with Efficient Heating and Cooling. I mean, it can be so hard to find somebody that you trust coming into your home, fixing these large appliances that you have, and make no mistake about it, the HVAC unit, that is a very important appliance, and you got to have somebody that you trust. Well, with Efficient Heating and Cooling, they're a small company with big service, and they prove it time and time again with big results because Jeff and his crew do what's right every time. If you're trying to make that decision to repair or replace your system, even if you've already had somebody come and look at your system, call Jeff and his crew for a second opinion. They'll walk you through every option scenario so that way you can make an informed decision, while most other companies are just going to pressure you to replace the system because they make more money that way. But with Efficient HVAC, they will not pressure you just to replace it. If you can repair it, they'll do that. If you do need to replace it, they'll offer up to 18 months, same as cash financing on your next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an elite pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net. That's efficienthvac.net, or call 615-784-4424.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
Okay, we have got a couple of portions of I-24 shut down. One north of Nashville, the other portion south of Nashville. The one north of Nashville, 24 eastbound, is closed in Robertson County between Maxey Road and Springfield Ashland City Highway exit 24. Then in Rutherford County, 24 westbound is shut down between Sam Ridley Parkway and Waldron Road in Smyrna. That is because of a crash. We're not being told why 24 is shut down there in Robertson County. We're looking into that. Then we've got a crash in Nashville. This is going to be Nolensville Pike at Barnes Road. I'll try to get to some news for you coming up at 11 if everybody can start driving correctly.
Ken's not mad, you guys. He's just disappointed. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We were talking about term limits a little while ago, and Sandra had the text of the day. I actually had a lot of texts in this same vein of thinking. But Sandra said, Chris, it's like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. We've had the power all along to term limit politicians. You just vote them out. That's it. You just vote them out. Mark in Madison, real quick, you have a toy parade that you wanted to give a shout out to. Mark, where is this toy parade and how can we get involved?
Well, it's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. It's Saturday. All bikes are welcome. In fact, volunteers are welcome. People to come out and see us on Broadway. It's going to start at 911 John Lewis Way. The registration starts at 9 a.m. It's going to last until 11:45. That's when we start breaking down, and kickstands up at 12 o'clock.
I love it.
All the charity will help the Metro Nashville Police Department Christmas Basket program.
Perfect. And this is the Boswell's annual toy parade?
Yep, it's the 29th annual toy parade.
Oh, 29th. I'm sorry about that. More info online, nashville.gov. Mark, thanks for the call, and I wish you the best of luck at the toy parade. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver with the news.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, we've got parts of 24 shut down. Right now in Robertson County, 24 eastbound is shut down between Maxey Road and Springfield Ashland City Highway 49, exit 24. And then in Rutherford County, 24 westbound is shut down due to a crash there in Smyrna. Also, we are seeing some breaking news. Apparently, authorities have made an arrest related to the theft of rifles and body armor from at least three police officers' vehicles in Smyrna. There has been an arrest. We understand it is a juvenile. It's unclear if any of the body armor or weapons have been recovered, but at least one juvenile is in custody. All right, Israel-Hamas war. While meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli officials while in Tel Aviv today, Secretary Antony Blinken says he feels very confident that based on his conversations with Israeli leaders, there will be an increase in assistance getting in for the innocent civilians who need it in Gaza.
We are looking at very concrete, practical ways to widen the aperture, to significantly increase the assistance that's getting in. The food, the medicine, the water, fuel, other critical needs.
Nearly 4 weeks in, nearly 9,000 civilians have been killed in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry, as Israel responds to the massacre of more than 1,400 of its people and the capture of hostages. More than 240 still remain trapped in Gaza, including Americans. Predictions of a steep decline in hiring have finally come to pass. Jim Ryan says fewer than half as many jobs were created in October as in September.
About 150,000 positions came open last month, and the UAW strike against the big three automakers was absolutely reflected in the numbers. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says wages in October were up by 0.2%. The Federal Reserve welcomes the lower hiring and wage increases as a sign of an economy that isn't overheating.
Now, after the Fed this week kept interest rates at a 22-year high, some investors are now betting it's going to stop raising rates altogether. We'll see next month. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
My name is Ray. I was addicted to cocaine. I used cocaine to suppress my depression, the loneliness I was going through. I would put cocaine before my family, before anything that I did. Civic here, they take the time to get to know you, to see what you need. They give you classes, life coaches, therapists. They give you all the resources and the tools to equip yourself to do better. It would make me feel at home. It would make me feel safe, that they actually care, because a lot of facilities, they do it for the money. I'm going to pursue my culinary degree and probably pursue music. Just glad to experience this. The Life Recovery Program, it's been a great experience for me. I have no complaint.
.1106 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's an agenda-free Friday on the Chris Hand Show. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. 615-737-9986. David has a comment on Israel and Hamas. David, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Dave?
Thank you, Chris. It's great listening to your show. You guys are all terrific. Just a thought I want to share with you and see what your thoughts are about it. I have to get back on the road. I'm a truck driver, so I only have a few minutes here. But I think the question that seems not to be asked is the Muslim beliefs are to become the dominant religion around the world. They've stated it. It's been, I think, very clear to many. And I have to ask the question, isn't this more than just about the Jews in Israel? Isn't this more about their desire to be the dominant religion around the world? They've already shown that aggressiveness towards Christians. Who's next if they were to eradicate the Jews? Who's next? Would it be Christians? I think it would be, and that's a concern I have, and I don't hear anybody talking about it.
Well, I mean, Christians are already the most persecuted religious group in the world, and that's not even up for debate. We just are. We tend to have a false sense of security about things because we live here in America where we have a lot more religious freedom, but around the world that's not the case. Christians are persecuted in large numbers. Would that be their goal? I don't know, man. The religious stuff gets dicey. It depends on who you ask. You know what I mean?
Sure. I appreciate that. And thanks for your thoughts, and I'm interested in hearing anything more you have to say about it.
Hey, David, I appreciate you driving that truck for us, and then also listening to the show. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, it gets into weird, wonky territory once you start going into religious wars and down those lines, because people have pretty strong held beliefs, no matter which side you're talking to, about anything. You know, it depends on who you ask. Depends on who you ask. I try to, and I know it's probably not as popular as some. I try to take the religious aspect out of this as best I can and look at it from a conservative point of view. When I look at Israel versus Hamas, I try to put on my America First hat and try to put on my conservative hat and think about, do we really want to send foreign aid to another foreign war? And I take out the religious aspect when I'm diving down those rabbit holes as best I can, because I feel like sometimes that sways my thinking and it puts on the rose-colored glasses. And I don't know. War is hell. I don't want to fund it. It feels like we're funding both sides, whether we like it or not. David in Smyrna, you have a comment on what the previous caller just said. David, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
Yeah, hey, how you doing, Chris?
Good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm your trusty conservative Jewish caller.
Perfect. Weigh in on it then, David.
Well, I mean, there aren't too many of us. We do exist, but like I'm also an amateur historian, and when Alan West was in Congress, he had a really good statement about the nature and the history of Islam. And if you look at Islam, if you look at it throughout its history, all of its holy places are built on places of people that they've conquered and or subjugated. The best example being the Hagia Sophia Mosque in Constantinople when Mehmet II took over Constantinople and turned it into Istanbul. And while there are parts of the Quran that preach that Christians and Jews are people of the book,
yep.
If you ask a lot of current Muslim scholars, the Quran is to be studied in light of what they call the law of abrogation. So whatever it says towards the end of the book carries more credence than what it says at the beginning of the book. So at the beginning of the book, it says, we're all people of the book. But at the end of the book, it says, slay the unbelievers where you find them. So, I don't think it's such a thing as fundamentalist Islam. I think the people who there's an imam in Australia. He's called the Imam of Peace, and I followed him on Twitter, and I'm surprised they haven't taken a fatwa out on this guy. I mean, he's very pro-Israel. He believes in loving the people of the book. But those people who believe like that are the outliers. And until there's a reformation in Islam like there was in Christianity with Martin Luther, you're not going to see an end to the killing of Jews, the killing of Christians, the killing of Sikhs, the killing of Baha'is. If you just read throughout history, it's all there. Like I said, there's that one little soundbite from Alan West where he talks about the Venetians fighting the Ottomans at the Battle of Lepanto. When Muhammad took over and tried to convince the Jews and the Christians to come over to his religion, and they both basically told him to get bent, and that's when he started slaughtering them too. So I mean, it's all there, and it's all there in history for anybody to read. But sadly, we don't teach unrevised history anymore.
No, and I get looking at this through the religious lens, and it's hard for me not to look at it through a religious lens. But as far as decisions we make for the country, I don't want to look at it through a religious lens. It feels like we're funding both sides of this conflict when we're sending aid into Gaza, and it feels like we're sending billions of dollars over to Israel every year.
For me, as far as the people of Gaza are concerned, like the other thing that never gets reported is when, Hamas goes to somebody's house and says, we're going to shoot rockets out of your backyard. And if the person who owns the house says no, then Hamas takes them out in the street and kills them in front of their family.
Mm-hmm.
And, while not everybody in Gaza and the West Bank voted for Hamas, people need to keep in mind that they still voted for Hamas overwhelmingly. And, when Israel gave Gaza back to the Palestinians, I think that was a part of Israel that they had greenhouses that produced over 12% of the agriculture in Israel. It was one of the first things that Hamas destroyed.
Now, I can understand that the majority of Gazans probably do support Hamas, but the election aspect always gets me because one of the main things that a lot of conservatives believe is that the 2020 election wasn't on the up and up, and this is
and I certainly don't think those elections are on the up and up. I do agree with you there.
So that it always gets me. So like if we can believe and we can all agree that there were some things about the 2020 election in our great country that wasn't on the up and up, why do we still hang our hats on, well, the Palestinians voted for Hamas? It's a third world country, and it's the size of like a football field. Like it would be infinitely more easy for them to rig an election.
And I agree with you, and I do. That's why I think the thing that goes underreported is about normal people. They go to Hamas. They're
well, we're losing David.
They're killed.
I'm sorry, man.
So,
You were breaking up. I really appreciate your call, David. Thank you so much. Call anytime, my man. Call anytime. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to fund either side of this. David is very smart. He has a lot of history, and I always appreciate him calling. I still don't want to fund either side of this conflict. But what Mike Johnson did when he gets the funding for Israel and he says, well, we can cut funding from the IRS. Okay, well, now I'll negotiate that. There's certain things that I don't feel like we should give up any ground to as conservatives. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, abortion. Like, we need to set our feet in the sand on a couple things, right? One of the things I don't want to do is fund other countries' wars. I think it's a recipe for disaster. It brings us into the land of unintended consequences. Taking the religious aspect out of Israel and out of the equation for that is what I have to do to not get emotionally invested, because I don't think that funding another foreign war is the best option for our country. But when you tell me, well, we already had this money earmarked for 87,000 IRS agents, and we're going to use that money for Israel instead. Okay, well, you could probably talk me into that. That's where I would want to negotiate as a conservative. But it seems like we negotiate on different things. And this seems like it's going to be a non-negotiable, and that Biden would veto it. I still don't want to fund either side of this war. Feels like currently we're funding both sides. Weird how that works out. Super text, phone lines, 615-737-9986. 8212 says, I agree, until the Palestinian people could stand with Israel to liberate themselves, if they're going to be killed regardless, might as well be murdered for trying to be free from a terrorist group. Yeah, I agree with that too. It seems like there are Palestinians that don't like Hamas. Well, stand up for yourself. Fight back. Do something. 2251 says, it's like we're watching a chicken fight and betting on both chickens.
Bingo.
Yep, bingo. You got a bingo for Mac. Michael says, we're becoming a third world country.
No bingo.
I think that's a bingo.
Okay, fine.
Bingo.
You don't think that's a bingo? You don't think we're becoming a third world country?
I just don't want to bingo that.
Oh. It's not that you don't agree.
Yeah, it's just sad.
The bingo's more of a happy bingo.
Yeah. It's like bingo. Not bingo.
We should find a disgruntled bingo.
Yeah, we should. Yes, we
All
need
right.
to. Yeah,
We'll do
work
that.
on that.
We'll have homework over the weekend. Bill says, am I the only one who believes the 87,000 IRS agents will be used to go after outspoken conservatives? No, Bill. We all think that. Which is exactly why I would be okay with taking the funding away from the IRS and moving it over to Israel instead of just doing both and printing the money out of thin air and having the money machines go burr. I don't want money machines to go burr. Tired of it. 6447 says, I'd like to know how Israel helped us with Iraq and Afghanistan, because all these countries we keep helping out and we keep burying ourselves in debt to help out, never help us with our wars and our problems. Interesting question, 6447. They are our greatest ally, so I would wonder that as well. 9058 says, and yeah, abortion. Everyone knows what happens when you do the deal, so you made it happen, so you deal with it. I don't know. I just want to. There's certain things I don't think we should negotiate on as conservatives. First Amendment, Second Amendment, abortion, fiscal conservative in general, balancing the budget. Like we shouldn't be bending the knee on this. Now, I also don't want to fund foreign wars, but if you tell me that we could take away the 87,000 IRS agents that are going to come after fiscal conservatives and instead use that money to help out Israel, I could get behind that. Doesn't seem like the Democrats or the White House will get behind that, but I could get behind that. It's 11:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at United Structural Systems. You know them as USS. When I was just a listener of WTN, I heard their commercials for years, and after I got the chance to sit down and meet with the guys, man, I got to tell you, they're good, honest, hardworking people, and they're proud of the work they do. But they did tell me the work they do, you don't know you need them until you know you need them. So if you haven't poked your head down in your crawl space for a while, why don't you do that? See if you got standing water in your crawl space. Maybe go down to the basement, see if you have wet basement walls. Cracks in your basement floors. If you see any of those warning signs, that's your house trying to tell you something. And the guys at USS are fluent in house, and they can come through, make a unique plan for your home, and get it fixed for you. And they have 25,000 satisfied customers that will back them up because they did it for them. And I'm confident that if you call USS today, you'll be satisfied customer number 25,001. 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855. Online at USSTN.com.
Well, things are going to get better out there in the traffic. We've got Robertson County 24 eastbound has reopened there at Maxey Road. And in Rutherford County 24 westbound has reopened right there after Sam Ridley Parkway. You just got the right shoulder blocked. And there may be a break in the case of police gear, including rifles, stolen from cop cars this week in Middle Tennessee. This story and more at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is 11:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's an agenda-free Friday. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. Hey, Biden has a new border plan. He's got a plan to deal with this illegal immigration. He's going to throw money at it. Not to build a wall. Not to build a wall. No. Not like that. He's reportedly set to unveil a new plan that will pay foreign countries with American tax dollars to control the inflow of illegal immigration to the United States. Yep, that's his plan. His plan is to take your tax money and give it to foreign countries. I feel like this plan has been tried with just about every issue that's come up. Let's throw more American tax dollars at foreign countries. Well, today Biden is meeting with leaders from several North and South American countries, laying out a plan to finance economic projects in the region, which in return, the White House hopes, will help manage illegal immigration to the U.S. They're saying that the hope is to expand economic prospects in the Western Hemisphere so migrants do not head to the United States. So you gotta make some jobs so that way they stay elsewhere. Or maybe we could just, bring jobs back to America and build a wall. That would help. Maybe the Biden administration could just stop using forklifts to lift up razor wire on the border, which is what happened yesterday. A judge forced the Biden administration to stop cutting the razor wire. So they said, all right, yeah, no problem. We'll stop cutting it. They showed up with a forklift and lifted the razor wire. Lifted it right up. And now Joe's new plan is to throw more money at the problem. The plan comes as an estimated 6 million border crossers and illegal aliens have been welcomed into American communities since Biden took office in January 2021, including nearly 2 million so-called gotaways. It's awesome, isn't it? And we're already subsidizing billions in projects and foreign aid around the world, supported by Republicans and Democrats alike. And a lot of that money ends up in the hands of these NGOs, the non-governmental organizations. And I am not a fan of NGOs. They rely on the instability in the world to stay afloat. And I've often said this when it comes to homeless NGOs. If I'm running a non-governmental organization and I'm making $250,000 a year, and my NGO, their goal is to fix homelessness. Well, if you fix it, then you lose your cushy NGO job. There's no actual incentive for these NGOs to fix any of the problems that they're out there trying to fix. Because if there was, the problems would be fixed, and then these people would lose their big-time jobs. There's no incentive there. Of course not. GOP senators are pressuring Biden to actually make public the total number of illegal aliens released into the U.S. every month. See, what we have is just estimates. They want the real number of what is being released into the U.S. every month. A group of Republican senators has introduced legislation that would require the Department of Homeland Security to make public monthly the total of border crossers and illegal aliens released into the U.S., a figure that is currently buried and must be estimated. Leading that charge, Senator John Cornyn of Texas, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. The Republican senators introduced this Southern Border Transparency Act to ensure that the DHS discloses all relevant information regarding the number of border crossers and illegal aliens that are being released into the United States every month, as well as what countries they're from and how many were rewarded with work permits, among other specifics. That, to me, I would be very interested. How many are getting work permits? Right? Like, wouldn't that be interesting? Not just how many are you releasing, but how many are you releasing that are stealing jobs from American citizens? Because the jobs that are being stolen from American citizens, make no mistake about it, they hurt the less fortunate in our country at a far vaster rate than anywhere else. You know, they're not being released as an asylum-seeking migrant in New York and getting a gig as a high-paid lawyer. They're just not. Like, no migrant is coming to Florida and becoming an accountant, right? They're just not. They're getting low-wage labor jobs, and that hurts the least. Those amongst us with the least easily. I could go on about this. I just realized it's 11:30. Ken Weaver needs to do the newscast. I would have gone on a tangent, guys. I have a lot more to say. 11:30. Ken Weaver's got the news on Super Talk.
Well, that just gives me a chance to give the good traffic news there, Brother Chris. They have reopened 24 eastbound there in Robertson County, and they have reopened 24 westbound in Rutherford County there in Smyrna. Right now in Middle Tennessee, police have arrested a juvenile after police guns and body armor were stolen earlier this week from 3 Smyrna police officers' cars. The cars were burglarized at an officer's home. Meanwhile, News 2 says Metro Police are investigating after an AR-15 was stolen from a Cheatham County Sheriff's Office deputy's vehicle Tuesday night in Bellevue. The deputy's vehicle was parked at the Aventura Apartments on Amberwood Circle at the time. The back window had been smashed. Israel-Hamas war. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Israel pushing for a pause in fighting to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza.
See it as a way also, and very importantly, of creating a better environment in which hostages can be released. And this is a very important piece.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have 2 things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friend Jan Whitfield and Dental Plans with Jan. Listen, if you are a small business owner and you have employees on your staff, what better way to say thank you for all their hard work this year than a new dental and vision plan? And you can provide it for them at such a low cost. It's a small way to say thank you for your employees. And during this time where employee turnover is at an all-time high, this could be what makes the difference between your employees leaving to go work somewhere else or staying and working with you. Dental Plans with Jan. Again, it's a great way to get employees who are interviewing with you to take the job. It's also easy, affordable, and these are reputable dental plans. They're some of the biggest plans in Tennessee. It's a win-win for you, the employer, and your employees, and it's priced at like $27 to $39 a month, depending on what benefits your employees are looking at and how many employees are enrolled in the plan. It only gets cheaper the more you add employees. Plus, your employees can add a spouse or dependents, and if this group is more than 10 people, and there are orthodontics available. So if you want to be able to offer your employees great benefits, well, you need to hook up with Dental Plans with Jan and my friend Jan Whitfield, 615-974-9655, or you can email dentalplanswithjan@gmail.com, dentalplanswithjan@gmail.com, 615-974-9655. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Oh my gosh, I just remembered something that happened this morning.
Oh gosh, what?
So my wife just sent me a picture. It says we got in. The bathroom door had been unlocked last night. So
That's weird.
So this is how I find out, right?
Okay,
I'm getting
okay.
ready for work this morning. And my wife goes in the freezer. It's just like, where are the waffles for breakfast? And my son goes, "Oh, we got you."
Wait, what?
I was like, "What?
What do you mean?
Hang on. What?" He said, "We got you. We put the waffles and all the ice cream in the bathroom last night and locked the door as a joke." And I said,
"What?"
This is like, honestly, I'm like 30 seconds from walking out the door. And I find out that all of the ice cream has been locked in the bathroom downstairs overnight.
For hours.
So we got like a Walmart delivery, and my wife, I guess, was like having the boys help her bring stuff in, and they were like, "Dude, this is so funny. We're going to lock it in the bathroom and wait for mom to find out." Well, mom and dad didn't find out until the next day. So the bathroom's been unlocked. I just got the text.
And the waffles and the ice cream have been retrieved.
I think the waffles are retrieved. I think the ice cream has been cleaned
The
up.
ice cream, there it is.
The ice cream is not in the same form it was once in.
We got you.
Dude.
Hey.
You got to love these little practical jokers.
That's good. You're getting ready to leave there. You're like, wait, what? Where are the waffles?
Oh my gosh. I was like, boys, no, this is not funny. This is not funny at all. What are you doing? Why would you do that? Now we don't have ice cream. I was like, guys, trying to put it in terms they can understand. You have wasted all the ice cream.
Yeah, exactly.
That mom got for us. What are you doing?
You want ice cream later? It's not happening now.
No ice cream Sundays tonight. What are you doing?
Well, tell them I thought it was hilarious. Great job.
After I'm a little bit removed from it, I also think it's hilarious.
It's pretty funny.
At the time, I was just flabbergasted.
What?
I'm like, what? Virginia was like, just go to work. We'll figure this thing out.
We've got this.
All right. God bless you, Virginia. Yeah. So
I love that.
Just letting ice cream thaw overnight in the bathroom.
I just love kids' brains. They're like, yeah, no, this is what we're gonna do, man.
Dude.
This is gonna be awesome.
Got you. Like, what?
What do you mean?
Like, and they were in it for the long game.
Yeah, exactly. They're just gonna keep waiting.
They would have gone all weekend. Well, what are you boys doing?
Oh, I love it.
All right, it's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Sorry to go off on a tangent, but I had this text come in, and I was reminded of what happened this morning.
Too good.
It's an agenda-free Friday. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. Here's a story that we talked about earlier this week. I think I don't know if anybody else on the station has covered it, but the hockey player Adam Johnson, who got kicked in the throat, murdered on the ice. The story is getting crazier. His family has now been speaking out about this. And they're saying they want justice. Just in case you missed it, Adam Johnson, he was a former NHL player. He played for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he was playing in a hockey game, a professional hockey game in England, over in Britain, the UK. If you watch the video, you can see another player, Matt Petgrave, slash Johnson's neck with a skate blade. He basically appears to get bumped, and he swings his leg up, and this player, Adam Johnson, catches it in the throat, and, I mean, he dies. He bleeds out pretty quickly thereafter. Now, me personally, I think Matt Petgrave did this intentionally. If you look at the video in slow motion, you can see the leg double kick. Like, there's an extra motion even after the initial contact. Now, the family of Adam Johnson is speaking out. Carrie Johnson, his aunt, told Newsweek, "It was very reckless. I want the authorities investigating to get it right. We are looking for justice for Adam." Has anybody seen this tape? Do you guys think that this was intentional? Let me know on the super text line, 615-737-9986. I mean, for me personally, I think it's hard to say it wasn't intentional. Like it looked incredibly intentional. Did you think it was intentional when you saw it?
Yeah, having now watched it multiple times, I think he definitely meant to kick him.
I don't think he meant to kill him.
Meant to kill him? I don't know about that. But the kick looked... I mean, he's eyeing him from across the ice. There's a person in front of him that impedes his path. He's able to somehow shoo him away. And then, the double motion is really what sells it at the end, too.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this in hockey. And I've watched a lot of hockey being Canadian. So I'm not actually Canadian, but everybody, all you jerks will tell me that I sound it. The family speaking out, his aunt says that she watched the game while at home with Adam Johnson's parents, and after seeing the video hundreds of times, which I feel for the family.
Oh, terrible.
I mean, can you imagine not only watching your nephew or your son have that happen to them live, but then it would almost be impossible to not watch that video over and over again.
Of course.
Right? Like, and if you don't watch it over and over again, it's probably seared into your memory and it will be replayed over and over again. She said she's concluded that it was totally unnecessary. This is his aunt. You don't take your leg and kick somebody and cut their throat. I'm sorry. We were watching the game in real time and we did witness what happened. Horrific is the word to describe. My nephew was 6 feet tall. And whether you lost your balance or not, to have that leg come up that high and do a kicking motion like he did, that is just unacceptable. I think the actions were unnecessary. It was just unnecessary. Nobody touched him. I've watched that video hundreds of times. I'm sure Mr. Petgrave probably didn't even think about the consequences, what they could be. But there comes a time when you have to realize that's not hockey. His aunt, Carrie Johnson, said Petgrave was likely going through a lot too, but he took our boy. There are a few of us in the family that think it was totally unnecessary, very, very bad action to take. The story is being updated. For me, I feel like this is a massive story. My kids play hockey. We get them involved with the little Preds down in Antioch. It's an awesome program. And they're getting neck guards this season, tell you what.
Yeah, it's a good call, probably. Yeah.
You know, at a certain age, you have to wear them in hockey. The young kids really don't, but, I mean, I only need to see something like that once. And I think it was intentional. I do. The more you watch that video, the harder it is to not think it was intentional.
Yeah, 0146 says, I've been watching hockey since the 70s. That was the most disgustingly intentional move I've ever seen.
Yeah. Ron texted and he said, Adam Johnson case, seen it. Not intentional to kill him, but extremely reckless. Not a hockey play at all. Yep, I agree with that.
I think that's the verbiage, yeah, because you see in football, with targeting, was it a football move? Like, that's the same thing in hockey. Like, that wasn't a hockey play.
No, and I even the leg flying up like that is one thing, I guess. Like that, But if you watch that video in slow motion, there is a second kick motion while the leg is in the air. Like he does it twice, which was insane. What is it? 8842 said Tony Stewart intentionally ran over a man and killed him with no consequences. Who's Tony Stewart?
Fact checking.
Fact check that. Is that a NASCAR driver? I'm not a big NASCAR guy. Full disclosure. Tony Stewart kills a guy. Let's see what comes up. Yeah, no, NASCAR's Tony Stewart kills driver on New York track from 2022. Tony Stewart's fatal collision with Kevin Ward Jr. still lingers. 8 years on from the young driver's death, a new documentary seeks to answer questions about a deadly night on a dirt track. 8 years ago, so this article was printed in 22, so it's at 2014. New York minor league race, about halfway through. Bumped by a rival car, sent spiraling. Seeing red, Ward exited his vehicle and charged down the banked circuit to vent his frustration. And he got run over by NASCAR megastar Tony Stewart. Interesting. I'd have to look into that a little bit more before I come up with an opinion. And I would probably want to see a video, although maybe there is no video. Danny in Lebanon, you have a comment on hockey. You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Danny?
Yes, sir. I believe that was absolutely deliberate, that kick. And the guy has anger issues. He'd spent 117 minutes in a penalty box in the last 11 games. And, yeah, the guy's got anger issues, and I think it was deliberate. He ought to be prosecuted for it.
Yeah, I think at least manslaughter. You know, I don't think he probably went up there thinking I'm going to kill this guy, but I think that the kick was definitely deliberate.
Yeah, and also, let me swing on to this side about the Tony Stewart issue. The other individual that got hit and run over had marijuana in his system, and yeah, that had a lot to do with it too, I think, for him to be walking across the track the way he was.
Well,
that was their.
I don't know. I don't know about all that. Like marijuana in your system. What does that even mean? Like you could smoke 2 weeks ago and have marijuana in your system.
Yeah, 30 days ago. I know it's irrelevant. It's crazy. Yeah, I know.
I mean, if you told me you had a blood alcohol content of so and so like that, I could see using that as something, but I don't know. The Tony Stewart thing, I'll dig into. I've not heard that story before.
Me either.
It's interesting.
Yeah. It was a few years back. I think it was in upstate New York.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was in New York on a dirt track. Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look into it. Thanks for the call, Danny. Appreciate it. I don't know if that's if you can blame that one on dude weed.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. The BAC, the guy was super. Yeah,
if he was like
drunk.
hammered drunk walking across the track,
that's one thing.
But even that, like, I don't know.
Pretty sure if it was weed, he'd be at the concession stand. So.
Yeah. Maybe he was going to get a hot dog. I don't know.
He lost his way.
I have no idea. Sorry, is that insensitive? It's probably insensitive. It was Mac's fault. Just when in doubt, blame Mac Maury.
Yeah.
Hey, are the Chiefs playing this weekend?
Sunday, 8:30 a.m. They're in Germany.
Oh, thank goodness it's an early game. When you said 8:30, I was like, oh, they got a night game?
Time?
That means Mac's going to have the woo flu Monday. All right, so you'll be able to recover for Monday? Is that what we're
expect
thinking?
my presence.
All
yes.
right, excellent. We're excited about that. We also got the one and only Matt Murphy joining us here in a moment. We have an interesting story we want to ask him about, and we'll do that when we cross and also see what's happening on Murphy's show at noon. Todd's back. Todd, everybody's wondering where you were earlier, Todd. Todd says, go Dolphins.
Oh, please.
Is that who you guys are playing?
Yep, the Fins.
Dude, when I was in the 90s, I had a sweet Dolphins pullover starter jacket.
They have some cool colors. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I got it from my older cousin. It's pretty based.
Go Chiefs.
Dan Marino, baby. I don't know. Chiefs are awful. I don't really have anything football-wise to say except, I don't know. Hopefully they got their booster shots before they go over there. It's 11:49. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm so glad Todd got to join us. It's Super Talk. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris and we were talking about Tony Stewart and that time he killed a guy. I'm watching the video for the first time and he runs him over. That guy looked a little bit angry. You've never seen this video, Mac?
No, I haven't seen it.
Apparently he was found not guilty.
Wow.
In court. Do you know this story?
Well, the guy did come out on the track.
He looked a little angry.
Looked upset. You know, it was that kind of stopped a growing trend in racing circles when altercations happened. Guys would come out on the track with like their helmets and throw their helmets at the cars or whatever.
Yep, I remember that.
And when that happened, that kind of all stopped because, you know, you can get hit and killed.
We got on this because of the hockey player.
They got his neck sliced?
Oh, my gosh.
And
Have you seen that video?
Half of the world says, well, he kind of tripped or something, and the other half is like, this was obviously intentional. And
if you look at the slow motion, that leg has a double pump to it.
Yeah, I've not looked at it in slow motion, but I don't understand how you could get your leg in that position and it not be intentional.
No, I honestly...
I don't know how your leg would fall up like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and he wasn't hitting that kind of a way.
You know, on the lighter side of Tony Stewart, have you heard the story about the time that he won a race, but he pooped his pants?
No.
It's absolute truth.
Okay.
I think it was in Martinsville. A super texter will know the details.
Okay.
I will have some of the details wrong. Like, you know, they do the scanners in NASCAR, so you can hear the interaction between the crew chief and the driver. And Tony Stewart was having like severe stomach cramps. He was sick. He was bad sick. And he said, I don't know if I can make it. You know, and the guy's like, hey, Tony, if you need to come in. But he was like in the top 5 in the race. And so at some point, the guy's like, are you okay? Is everything all right? And Tony's just like, it's fine. It's fine. And he's like, everything okay? Are you sure everything is right? Yes, it's fine. It's fine. So he eventually wins the race. So when you win the race, you go to where? Winner's Circle, right?
Yes.
Victory lane. Tony did not. Tony took his car directly to his hauler. This is a true story. Parked right by the hauler, jumped out of the car, went to the hauler. 10 minutes later, he comes back, new fresh suit on, and off to Victory Circle. They denied it, but, I mean, look, at least he won the race.
It kind of reminds me of that time Joe Biden showed back up to the Pope and had a completely different suit on. They denied it as well. Although one of them seems to have a good reason and actually won something, and the other one didn't accomplish anything.
Just asleep on the beach.
Yeah, exactly. Matt Murphy's up next. Hang out with him. He's here till 3. Then the drive with Brian Wilson will take you home. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.